But just as he moved, Zhang Yi's body quickly shifted, moving to another position directly in front of Chu Zheng. The slash from the divine cane struck out, colliding fiercely with the Sunwheel Sword. Dark black flames and golden Buddhist light collided. Half the sky was split into two completely different colors. One half was dark and gloomy, like a heavenly demon. The other half was brilliantly golden, as if tens of thousands of Buddhas had converged at once. Boom! The entire ceiling of the tall building shattered, but the debris flew upwards into the air. The ability users around none lower than deputy team leader level could not withstand this immense power and were shaken, falling scattered throughout the command center. Immediately, a terrifying battle also broke out below. Members of the Yanyan Guard Force, the Defense Forces, and the new Angel Squad began to surround and capture the members of the Reincarnation Squad. Deng Shentong climbed back up, holding his flower sword, and launched a sneak attack on Gao Changkong from behind. Lan Xincheng was determined to protect Chu Zheng to the end. Gao Changkong's eyes were cold. There was no turning back now. He had to kill Chu Zheng to resolve everything. Even if he had to face two team leader level ability users at once, he still felt invincible. I have seen through your future and awaken. Gao Changkong utilized reincarnation deduction to grasp the combat abilities of Deng Shentong and Zhang Yi. Deng Shentong was easy to kill. Zhang Yi was the biggest trouble. Therefore, he urged the Heavenly Might treasure wheel, intending to shatter Zhang Yi's spatial ability dimension first, as long as the power exceeding the limit was absorbed once the other dimension would collapse. The Sunwheel Sword was raised high. A terrifying storm of energy surged, centered around Gao Changkong. Zhang Yi, can you withstand this ultimate move of mine? Gao Changkong sternly questioned. Immediately afterward, the Sunwheel Sword, filled with killing intent, slashed directly at Zhang Yi. The giant energy storm looked as if it could devastate the horizon, pointing directly at his body and the building behind him. This terrifying storm certainly had the power to level everything behind Zhang Yi. Zhang Yi instinctively sensed that Chu Zheng was behind him. If he dodged this blow, Chu Zheng and Lan Xincheng would surely die. Lan Xincheng's death wasn't important, but since he had put so much effort into rushing back here, he absolutely could not let anything happen to Chu Zheng. After all, a new commander in Blizzard City might not be as favorable to Zhang Yi as Chu Zheng. His eyes became serious. A black light flashed in his left eye. Time reverb. After absorbing Mayumi Kuchi's origin source, Zhang Yi had awakened a new ability. This ability was very special. It didn't directly increase his combat strength, but instead gave him a type of combat consciousness that allowed him to achieve the best self-preservation during battle. 1. It could predict incoming attacks and simultaneously react. 2. It could find the weak points in the opponent's attack and neutralize them. After the time reverb was deployed, the vision in his left eye completely changed. It was a world different from before. Gao Changkong's Eye of the Storm was instantly locked onto by him. That was where Gao Changkong's key power was concentrated. Zhang Yi raised the divine cane in his hand, aiming it directly at the surging energy storm. Blade of breaking blades. The blade broke the dark substance, condensing the power of the void into a giant arrow that shot out from the tip of the divine cane, fiercely colliding with the Sunwheel Sword. The black arrow plunged into the center of the storm. Immediately afterward, the surging storm suddenly swelled and then exploded like a balloon. The energies canceled each other out, eventually forming only a storm that blew in all directions, without any energy affecting the area behind Zhang Yi. However, with just this one blow, more than half of the command center building collapsed. Gao Changkong's eyes contracted violently. This is impossible. Everything before his eyes was completely different from what he had seen in the future through his deduction. Either Zhang Yi would dodge and Chu Zheng would die, or he would use his spatial ability dimension to absorb the full power of his move, and then his spatial ability dimension would shatter. But a third possibility had appeared. He didn't know that facing him Zhang Yi also had a precognitive ability. It was just that Gao Changkong's deduction worked differently from a program and wasn't necessarily without errors, while Zhang Yi's precognitive ability was a rule of the temporal domain, meaning he could directly predict the future. A higher level ability had rendered his reincarnation deduction useless. Zhang Yi, why are you blocking me? Gao Changkong looked at Zhang Yi and said calmly, I am not your enemy. You and I are both people from humble backgrounds. There is no need to risk your lives for these kinds of people. As long as I kill Chu Zheng, I can restore order to the Jiangnan zone. You also don't like seeing these old men still high and mighty like before, right? Come, let's change this distorted world together. Gao Changkong tried to persuade Zhang Yi. Zhang Yi only responded with a cold laugh. Shut up, you damn traitor. Commander Chu is wise and capable. Everything he does is for the future of the entire Jiangnan zone. You are destroying the efforts that many people have painstakingly built for your personal gain. You are the biggest sinner. These words were definitely meant for someone present here, Chu Jung heard these words and was clearly moved, so Zhang Yi is really a good person. I misunderstood him before. It turns out he has such a loyal heart. Chu Jung decided that he would do his best to nurture Zhang Yi after this crisis passed. And Deng Shentong? Well, he did contribute somewhat to saving him, but he lost to Gao Changkong in the fight, so points had to be deducted. Now, in Chu Jung's eyes, there was only the loyal and righteous man, Zhang Yi. Furthermore, Zhang Yi looked at Gao Changkong, a look of killing intent flashing in his eyes. The debt for the setup you orchestrated to kill me in Tianhai City, I will definitely repay it. This statement was completely sincere. Gao Changkong knew he couldn't persuade Zhang Yi, so he stopped talking nonsense. Fine, then let's see who can laugh last. The Heavenly Might treasure wheel. Behind him glowed brightly a flash of killing intent, appearing as he looked at Chu Jung. Kill him. He shot towards Zhang Yi and Deng Shentong. Gao Changkong challenged two people by himself, yet he showed no signs of weakness. However, his biggest problem now wasn't defeating Zhang Yi and Deng Shentong, but breaking through Zhang Yi's layer of defense. Zhang Yi was originally not an ability user skilled in offense, although he could now utilize spatial power more subtly in close combat. He was still not as fast as Gao Changkong, but Gao Changkong also couldn't do anything to him. Facing Zhang Yi, who possessed spatial power, all of his attacks were absorbed and bounced back. In other words, Gao Changkong and Zhang Yi were the main characters of this battle, while Deng Shentong, already heavily injured, was just watching. This made him feel extremely uncomfortable, but there was nothing he could do. In terms of pure defensive ability versus an offensive ability, both of their strengths were a level higher than his. Fortunately, Zhang Yi was here, making it impossible for Gao Changkong to kill Chu. Zhang Yi's timely rescue had prevented Gao Changkong from killing Chu Jung as planned. Now the situation was becoming increasingly unfavorable for him. He could not break through Zhang Yi's defense, especially with time. Reverb. Zhang Yi could predict all of his attacks. Time Reverb was a high-level ability of the Meditation Seal. It could completely suppress and directly seal Gao Changkong's calculation ability. Not to mention Zhang Yi's abnormal defensive capability. At this moment, all of Blizzard City's combat forces were gathering in this direction. As long as they held on for a little longer, the reincarnation squad would be annihilated sooner or later. Gao Changkong took a deep breath. He decided to abandon this mission. We retreat, he shouted over the communication system to all members of the reincarnation squad. Hearing these words, the members felt a surge of melancholy and regret. They had failed this mission. They were just one step away from success. They had rehearsed for this day countless times, but heaven did not favor them. They had accounted for every factor within Blizzard City, but they had only failed to account for Zhang Yi, someone from outside the city. Although there was some regret in their hearts, they still had to obey Gao Changkong's order and retreat together. The person whom everyone usually called the combat arena, whose real name few knew, opened a spatial gate. Gao Changkong looked deeply at Chu Jung, then looked at Zhang Yi. Zhang Yi, consider this your win today. I underestimated you, but next time it won't be this simple. Zhang Yi said nothing. Only Deng Shentong walked forward holding his sword, his eyes sharp, staring at the spatial gate. He didn't need to think to know that it led somewhere outside the city. This was the escape route the reincarnation squad had prepared for themselves. You think you can escape? Deng Shentong questioned in a deep voice. Gao Changkong looked at Deng Shentong, a hint of disdain in his eyes. He wasn't deliberately humiliating Deng Shentong. He simply didn't see the loser under his hand as important. Deng Shentong, you should thank Zhang Yi for saving your life. Otherwise, you would already be a dead man. Deng Shentong was immediately agitated, but didn't dare to act rashly, because at this moment, he truly wasn't Gao Changkong's opponent. He could only turn his eyes towards Zhang Yi, hoping Zhang Yi could help him block the person in front of him. Zhang Yi didn't hesitate either. He lowered his head and looked at his right hand. The dark black flame enveloped the divine cane. I'm also very skilled in spatial power. Guess if you can escape with me here. Perhaps others couldn't do it, but Zhang Yi could indeed destroy their spatial tunnel. Gao Changkong frowned slightly, and then suddenly two figures appeared in the air, Ji Yushen and Sun Luoxuan. The two had fought fiercely for a long time in Ji Yushen's solo field, but still hadn't determined a winner. At this moment, receiving Gao Changkong's order, Ji Yushen dispelled his ability. He understood the situation and stepped forward with his sword standing before the reincarnation squad. Captain, you lead everyone away first. Let me block them here. The faces of his teammates all showed reluctance. Deputy Captain, to block here meant to wait until the spatial gate was completely closed. Then the mission would be considered complete. At that point, staying alone in Blizzard City would certainly lead to death. However, no one said anything more, because from the beginning when they joined this plan, everyone was aware of dedicating their lives. Each individual in the reincarnation squad was a person who had struggled from the bottom, personally trained by Gao Changkong, and each one hated the injustice of Blizzard City. If it were anyone else today, they would not hesitate to sacrifice themselves to create an opportunity for their teammates to survive. Gao Changkong also didn't refuse Ji Yushen's proposal. He placed his hand on Ji Yushen's shoulder and said solemnly, "You will always be my brother. Be my brave brother." Ji Yushen took a deep breath. "Yes, Captain." He pulled a vial of Compound No. 5 from his pocket and shoved it into his mouth without hesitation. Zhang Yi couldn't help but sigh. Again, do they all like biting on drugs? He had always disdained this kind of one-time pharmaceutical product that harmed the body. However, at the critical moment of a life-and-death battle, seeing the opponent use medicine, he still couldn't help but feel a chill down his spine. The effect of Compound No. 5 was very fast. The hidden potential in the user's body would burn at a high speed, and excessive use could even lead to death. However, at this moment, Ji Yushen was determined to fight to the death, so when he unleashed his power, he didn't hold back at all. Boom! Blue flames erupted around him and shot up. Within a 1,000-meter radius centered on him, it instantly became a vast sea of blue fire. Zhang Yi, Sun Luoxuan, and Deng Shentong quickly retreated, not wanting to be touched by this type of fire with unknown composition. But a few hundred soldiers nearby couldn't escape in time and were directly engulfed in the sea of fire. In the blink of an eye, blue fire spewed from their 7 orifices, and amidst tragic cries, their entire bodies were burned into strange skeletons. What was strange was that their clothes and weapons were not damaged at all. Only their flesh, blood, and internal organs were incinerated into ash. Great annihilation. Yanluo Giant. Blue flames flashed across the sky at a terrifying speed. Those nearby who couldn't escape were instantly killed. When a leader starts risking their life, no one can help but tremble because of it. Leading his subordinates, Gao Changkong and the others stepped out of the spatial gate. One by one, Zhang Yi and the others had no way to stop them. Anyway, no one could get past the god of death. Ji Yushen, "Kill, kill, kill, ha 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 ha!" Ji Yushen threw his head back and laughed wildly. That was the final banquet of someone about to surrender their life. When a person is no longer afraid of death, nothing in the world can restrain them. The flames soaring to the sky began to burn fiercely. Merciless slaughter. The flames didn't discriminate against anything around them. Zhang Yi noticed the situation wasn't good and quietly retreated behind everyone. Ji Yushen will definitely die. There's no need for me to risk my life against a dead man. I will go protect Commander Chu. You guys worry about dealing with him. With that, Zhang Yi intended to slip away. However, Sun Luoxuan grabbed his arm and said with a smile, "The reincarnation squad has escaped. Commander Chu is very safe now. Young man, let's face this together." Zhang Yi frowned and reluctantly nodded in agreement. Nkriki. At this moment, under the protection of Lan Xin Cheng Chu Zheng had left the battlefield. After escaping, the first thing he did was take out his satellite phone to contact the distant Shengjing Zone headquarters. "Hello, I am Chu Cheng of the Jiangnan Zone." On the fierce battlefield facing the desperate Ji Yushen, Zhang Yi and the other two did not dare to underestimate him at all. "We must control him, otherwise Blizzard City will be completely devastated by him." Sun Luoxuan reminded the two, I understand. Deng Shentong immediately activated the Great Sumeru illusion, using illusions to affect Ji Yushen, to avoid being affected by the illusions. Ji Yushen reluctantly closed his eyes, but after all, he wasn't like Gao Changkong with overly powerful senses, so his combat ability and sense of direction were greatly affected. Meanwhile, Zhang Yi, Sun Luoxuan, and one other person attacked him from 3 directions. This battle was not easy. The bombardment leveled the entire area, a mile away from the command center. Ji Yushen's death was ultimately due to him using Compound No. 5 to consume his own strength, exhausting his vitality before dying. This was a team leader level member with powerful offensive strength and was very difficult to kill. No wonder why many people didn't believe it when Deng Shentong faked his death in the beginning. Zhang Yi looked at Ji Yushen's corpse and let out a sigh of relief. He said, "It's a pity that Gao Changkong and the others escaped." "They won't escape." Deng Shentong gritted his teeth and said, "Even if they escape Blizzard City, they will be listed as Class S, wanted criminals pursued by the entire Huaxia nation. They will surely die without a doubt. However, Zhang Yi said, "But with Gao Changkong's strength, it will be very difficult to kill him. Gao Changkong's ability is extraordinary. Although there is a difference between deduction and future prediction, he can use this ability multiple times during battle, allowing him to quickly improve his strength beyond ordinary people. Especially when he has chosen someone as a target, he can train specifically against that person. Coupled with the 6 powerful mudras of the Heavenly Might Treasure Wheel, the power he possesses is terrifying, even at the team leader level." Zhang Yi mused. Deng Shentong's power level is only 9,300, then Gao Changkong must be at least around 9,600 or above. He should be the ability user currently closest to the Epsilon level. Besides me, he added at the end. While the three of them were talking, Chu Zheng's voice came from not far away. Rest assured he won't escape. Zhang Yi looked towards him. Chu Zheng seemed a bit tired, but thanks to everyone's good protection, he wasn't seriously injured. Only a minor burn on his right arm from being a little careless during the retreat. It had been bandaged. Zhang Yi couldn't help but ask, "Do you have other preparations?" Nemi. Chu Zheng smiled and said, "Of course." He raised his head and looked towards the high sky. His death is beyond doubt. Zhang Yi didn't know where Chu Zheng's confidence came from. If he hadn't arrived in time, Chu Zheng would have been killed by Gao Changkong long ago. Now he was acting as if he had anticipated everything. But just at this moment, Zhang Yi suddenly heard the sound of chains dragging beside his ear. He and Deng Shentong couldn't help but follow the sound and look in that direction. Suddenly a faint mist rose into the air, accompanied by the increasingly clear sound of chains. From within the mist, two chains appeared, one pitch black and one pure white. They gradually went from tangible to intangible, quickly spreading forward. An aura of death permeated the surroundings. The terrifying, gloomy chains made people feel a dread from the depths of their souls. The warning sound inside Zhang Yi's heart rang out fiercely. He quickly teleported several hundred meters away, far from the two chains. Both Deng Shentong and Sun Luoxuan adopted the same approach. A moment later, they saw that the direction the two chains pointed to was a Yanyan guard. Major, his face full of surprise. He didn't know what had happened, but his body was already tightly bound by the two chains. "What monster is this? What is this thing?" he screamed in fear and struggled wildly. However, despite his best efforts in using his abilities, he could not damage the chains even slightly. Chu Zheng, who was previously full of confidence, now changed his expression. How could this be? The more the Yanyan guard major struggled, the tighter the chains on his body became. Just at this moment, Zhang Yi saw a scene that made his entire body feel icy. From within the thick mist, two tall figures slowly appeared. Both were over two zhengs, about 6 meters tall. One wore a black robe, the other a white robe. Both wore tall, pointed hats. "Black and white impermanence," Zhang Yi muttered, unable to help but say the name. Phew. People in Huaxia Nation didn't know the image of these two ghostly deities. The two ghostly deities, radiating intense killing intent, hovered in the air, drifting towards the Yanyan guard major, who was tightly bound by the chains. The entire battlefield instantly fell into an atmosphere of horror, to the point where no one dared to move. Even Zhang Yi and the other two unconsciously fell silent, because they emitted an extremely terrifying power of Fazu Principal Sar Law, far exceeding the team leader level. The Yanyan guard. Major was terrified to the extreme. His companions also tried their best to help him escape this trouble. Unfortunately, no matter how they acted, whether they shot with guns or used attack abilities, the chains didn't budge an inch. A moment later, the two ghost emissaries approached him. Their arms held the soul chains tightly. The two ghostly figures didn't even glance at anyone else, and simply dragged the Yanyan guard Major's body forward. In front of them, a giant platform slowly appeared like a massive gate leading to a heavenly court, soaring high in the clouds, its end unknown. The two ghost emissaries tightly bound the Yanyan guard Major's body to the tall platform. The gate-like image became clearer slowly, but the moment everyone saw it, clearly the backs of their necks went cold, because it wasn't a gate to heaven, but a giant execution platform towering in midair. A sharp, dark execution blade hung suspended above its edge, tilted to one side. Just one slash would split any person or beast in two. The Yanyan guard major was so frightened that his soul nearly scattered. He screamed desperately for help, but his body was still tightly bound by the soul chains and could not struggle. Crash! The execution platform fell from above, striking down just a moment later, splitting him from head to toe. The Yanyan guard major's body was neatly cut into two halves. If viewed from the front, perhaps everyone would have thought he was unharmed. Unfortunately, after the blade fell, all the bizarre phenomena quickly disappeared. The ghost emissaries and the execution platform vanished like smoke. The Yanyan guard Major's body split into two and fell down. That horrifying death left everyone gasping. Because from beginning to end, no one saw anyone harming this major. It was as if he had been cursed. Chu Jing's body was trembling not from fear, but from fury. "Gao Changkong, you played tricks on me again." Zhang Yi, sensitive and perceptive, sensed something was wrong with this situation. "Commander Chu, what's wrong? Who is attacking our people?" Chu Jing looked closely at Zhang Yi, silent for a long time, then slowly said, "I asked the higher-ups in the Xingjing zone to help me eliminate this traitor, Gao Changkong. This is the ability Hell's Guillotine of the Cursed One. Any target locked onto by that person is guaranteed to be killed. This is a fixed rule. He gritted his teeth and said, Damn Gao Changkong. He must have predicted everything. I didn't expect him to escape. This incident truly shocked Zhang Yi. According to legend, that Epsilon-level ability user in Shengjing could pursue and kill others from thousands of miles away, but this was the first time he had witnessed it firsthand. However, what he didn't expect was that the first time he saw the power of Hell's guillotine. Such an unbelievable mistake occurred. He felt a dreadful awe at the terrifying power of Hell's guillotine, because the power of that rule made him feel extremely fearful. Zhang Yi thought to himself, if I were locked onto by this power, could I escape? However, in reality, Chu Jing originally intended to use Hell's guillotine to kill Gao Changkong, but Gao Changkong had used some method to teleport away, which meant that to unleash the killing ultimate move of Hell's guillotine, certain conditions must be met. A bit of caution arose in Zhang Yi's heart. It seemed he had to be careful about every request made by Blizzard City, especially not giving away his personal items to enemies. Who knows, it might become a double-edged sword that Blizzard City would use against him later. Chu Jing was both angry and regretful, and at the same time lucky that he was unharmed. He looked at Zhang Yi, his eyes filled with gratitude and admiration. Zhang Yi, this time it's truly thanks to you. If you hadn't appeared in time, I'm afraid all of us would have met with misfortune. Sun Luoxuan and Deng Shentong also looked at Zhang Yi, their eyes filled with gratitude. Even Deng Shentong, no matter how arrogant he was, didn't feel angry because Zhang Yi stole the spotlight. After all, Zhang Yi was their savior. Zhang Yi chuckled inwardly, but his face remained humble as he said, I just did what a citizen of our Jiangnan zone should do. Zhang Yi's attitude greatly satisfied Chu Jing. In his heart, he had already thought of hundreds of ways to promote Zhang Yi. But now, they had other matters to deal with. After the battle ended, responsible persons from various departments and units in Blizzard City all rushed over, one after another, expressing their loyalty to Chu Jing. Commander Chu, are you unharmed? That's great. When I heard about the rebellion in the command center, I was so anxious I was worried something would happen to you. Wah, Commander Chu, I was so worried about you. When these people were fighting earlier, they didn't even bother to help, but now they came running, crying tragically. It truly was a performance. After all, everyone had their own calculations in mind. There were traitors within Blizzard City, and Chu Jing would definitely not let it go. They had to quickly clarify their relationship with the reincarnation squad to protect themselves. Chu Jing narrowed his eyes, scanning the people present. The high-ranking officials of Blizzard City were all here, but it was certain that some of them had colluded with the reincarnation squad. Otherwise, just relying on those few people from the reincarnation squad would not have been able to fool everyone and carry out such an operation. From Chu Jing's cold eyes, Zhang Yi seemed to see a major purge about to begin. However, that wasn't Zhang Yi's business. Chu Jing turned back and gave Zhang Yi a praising smile, then told him to rest well. Of course, Chu Jing also praised Sun Luoxuan and Deng Shentong generously for doing their best to protect him.